Welcome to the Cognitive Rigor Matrix online training. The goal of this training is to build an understanding in how to design lesson plans with more complex and rigorous learning outcomes for all learners in your classroom. At the end of this lesson, you will have learned about the new Bloom's taxonomy, be introduced to the depth of knowledge wheel, and understand each of the 4 DOK levels through lesson examples. Understand there is more to a rigorous lesson than choosing an objective central verb. And lastly, how to incorporate both the new Bloom's taxonomy and depth of knowledge into the cognitive rigor matrix, which is designed to analyze and inform lesson planning and instruction. Please take a moment and reflect on the following 3 questions. What is learning? Where and when does it occur? And how do we design experiences that promote thinking and learning specific information? Please record your thoughts on questions 1A, 1B, and 1C. Slide 3 consists of the original Bloom's taxonomy developed many years ago. Bloom's taxonomy provides an important framework for teachers to use and focus on higher order thinking skills with their students. When developing a lesson and then carrying it out, it is a good idea to have this taxonomy in mind to ensure students are being asked to spend their time thinking critically about content. Please do not make the mistake of believing our students should only be working at the highest level of Bloom's all day, every day. Our students need to be given tasks that reflect all of the levels of Bloom's throughout the day. Recently, Bloom's taxonomy received a facelift of sorts. Notice now that the Bloom's terms have been rewritten and have changed from nouns to verbs, making them more student-friendly. Please take a moment to review the new terms. This is a Bloom's crosswalk, giving you a side-by-side comparison of the old and new Bloom's terms. How do you feel the new terms can benefit your students? This concludes section 1. Welcome to section 2, Webb's depth of knowledge. Here is Webb's depth of knowledge wheel. You can see it is divided into 4 levels, which each level building upon the one before it. In the next several slides, we will work together to break each level down. Here are the same DOK levels presented in a different format. Level 1, recall and reproduction. Level 2, skills and concepts. Level 3, short-term strategic thinking. And level 4, extended thinking. Let's analyze each level. DOK 1 is the most basic of the levels. However, this does not mean DOK 1 is not worthy of students' time. This is foundational for students of all ages. The emphasis of DOK 1 is facts, and emphasis on recalling quick information. Although it can be difficult to recall facts, there is no reasoning associated with DOK 1, making it less rigorous than the other DOK levels. Notice that here there is just one right answer. Again, it is not a bad thing to have students solve a problem or recall an answer. Just keep in mind that as teachers, a great goal to have is to design and provide experiences for our students with varied DOK levels throughout the day. Here are some DOK 1 examples. Define a term, name a main character, describe a feature of a state, city, or country. Notice that all of these examples are asking students to recall facts. Please take a moment to read through the DOK 1 examples and write down 3 examples of DOK level 1 that have or will take place in your classroom. Please press pause now and play when you're ready to resume. This is question 3A. DOK 2 increases in rigor, moving away from recalling facts to focus more on skills and concepts instead of facts. Here, students are being asked to not only recall knowledge, but in DOK 2, they must do something with this knowledge, such as compare and contrast by finding similarities and differences. Students are asked to process and find main ideas of text and explain the thought process needed to find an answer, as well as justify their reasoning. Let's see some examples on the next slide. Here are some DOK2 examples. Compare and contrast health benefits of two kinds of exercise, identify major events, find the cause and effect of events. Please take a moment to read through the DOK2 examples and write down 3 examples of DOK Level 2 that have or will take place in your classroom. This is question 3B. Please press pause now and play when you're ready to resume. DOK3 increases in rigor yet again. Notice that at this point, the tasks students are being asked to complete will take longer. They will not take longer because there are more problems to be completed, but rather because the tasks are more abstract and more critical thinking must take place. More work does not equal more rigor. Here are some DOK3 examples. Explaining and use evidence from text to support reasons, or solve a multiple step problem and provide support to justify answers are a few ways a teacher can design a lesson with DOK3 in mind. Again, more work does not mean higher rigor. Rigor is the amount of thinking involved in a task. Please take a moment to read through DOK3 examples and write down 2 examples of DOK Level 3 that have or will take place in your classroom. This is question 3C. Please press pause now and play when you're ready to resume. Lastly, we have DOK Level 4. This is the level that is most associated with performance tasks since it requires multiple sources, varied answers, justifying responses, and typically extended time needed. It takes several sessions to complete a Level 4 task. Here are some DOK4 examples. Gather, analyze, and interpret information from multiple sources, analyze author's craft across multiple texts, or identify multiple solution paths. Please take a moment to read through the DOK4 examples and write down 1 example of DOK Level 4 that has or will take place in your classroom. This is question 3D. Please press pause now and play when you're ready to resume. Please remember that the central verb or noun is simply not enough to assign a DOK level. Instead, use these to create a starting point in determining the DOK level. The complexity of the task can only be determined after careful analysis of the task. Please notice that here all the verbs are the same, to describe. However, students are asked to describe at varied complexity levels, which are what can determine what DOK each task may be assigned. Please take a moment and mentally identify a DOK level for each task. Then click through to reveal the answers. Describe the process of photosynthesis. This is DOK Level 1 because it recalls information. This does not require complex thought. There is one answer being examined. Describe how the process of human digestion is similar to the process of photosynthesis. This is DOK 2 because a skill is required, compare and contrast, as well as 2 concepts are being evaluated, photosynthesis and digestion. Describe a process that is similar to photosynthesis or digestion, but is not related to the human body or plants. DOK 3 because, again, a skill is required, compare and contrast. However, this time, students are being asked to take concepts of photosynthesis or digestion and apply this to a new idea, not related to the human body or plants. This is another example of how the verbs are important in lesson design. However, what the students are being asked to do with the verb is more important when designing a lesson for students. Please take a moment to review the information on the slide. Lastly, please use the verb describe and write down 2 tasks you might ask your students to complete at two different DOK levels? Please record this answer under question 4. This concludes section 2. Welcome to section 3, the cognitive rigor matrix. This slide presents a brand new concept of taking both the new Bloom's taxonomy and blending it with depth of knowledge. This is called the cognitive rigor matrix. At first glance, it is an overwhelming series of words and phrases. Don't let this intimidate you. This is a tool that can be used to design rigorous tasks for your students. Please take a moment to familiarize yourself with the cognitive rigor matrix. Notice on the far left, the revised Bloom's taxonomy is listed from remember at the top to create at the bottom. On the top of the cognitive rigor matrix are the 4 DOK levels as well as descriptors to remind you of each. Take a look and notice that there are several blank spaces as well. These are left blank to illustrate that the remember piece of Bloom's taxonomy, although important for students, is not considered highly rigorous. Therefore, there aren't any DOK levels associated with this beyond level 1. The opposite is true when we have students evaluating. This is a higher level thinking skill, and the tasks associated with this level are highly complex. For this reason, when students are evaluating, they are always going to be at least level 3 or 4 in DOK. Please take several minutes to read examples in each box. In a few minutes, you will be presented with 4 tasks and asked to determine where these tasks may fall on the cognitive rigor matrix. Please press pause now and play when you're ready to resume. Now that you have become more familiar with the cognitive rigor matrix, it is important to note before our activity that there are no perfect answers. The purpose of this matrix is to determine where you believe your lesson falls on the matrix and then evaluate if it is appropriate. If you feel your students would benefit from a more complex task, the cognitive rigor matrix provides descriptors for raising to a more appropriate level. It is still important to note that your goal would be to provide several levels throughout your school day, ranging from the upper left side of the matrix to the lower right side of the matrix. Using your new lens of understanding rigorous lesson design, please read each task on the following slide. Determine where each task would be placed on the cognitive rigor matrix and then place each task in order. Please press pause until you are ready for your answers. Here are your tasks. Take a few minutes to read each task and decide where you believe each task would be on the cognitive rigor matrix. Please remember, lower does not mean it is a bad lesson for students. Please press pause now and play when you're ready for answers. Here are your task cards sequenced. You may find that there is a disagreement between your answers and these. That is perfectly fine. The purpose of the cognitive rigor matrix is simply to have time to think about complexity before a lesson is implemented. This becomes even more powerful when a team of teachers have the chance to rate tasks together. The time spent in discussion is invaluable and will only lead to a greater understanding of the cognitive rigor matrix and its impact on lesson design. Please reflect on the following and write down some thoughts you have on each. The new Bloom's taxonomy, Webb's depth of knowledge, the cognitive rigor matrix, and the task activity and the levels you assigned. Please press play when you are ready to resume. Thank you so much for your time and attention to the cognitive rigor matrix. Our hope in curriculum and instruction is that a greater awareness of the matrix and the parts that help make it up are better understood. The cognitive rigor matrix is complex in nature, and only when you can use it on a regular basis will its purpose become clear to you and your team. Should you have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact us in curriculum and instruction for clarification. Thank you again, and have a great day.